Well, my first guest tonight has been targeted by almost every major news organization in the country for speaking truth to power, which is, I thought, what we're supposed to do. Well, now he's been targeted by the FBI. Late last month, agents raided James O'Keefe's apartment, as well as the apartments of two of his journalists, in what appears to be a direct violation of the First Amendment. They even took personal notes from interviews. James is here with us tonight to tell us why that happened and to talk to us about how far journalism has slipped into the abyss. He's the author of a brand new, powerful book called American Muckraker. Would you welcome James O'Keefe? I think you're a little more popular here than you are in the halls of Congress in Washington.
Well, that's right. Well, I like operating behind enemy lines, including in New York State, where our office is headquartered.
You had the most bizarre thing happen to you a month ago. Your apartment was raided. Now, they didn't give you advance notice or call your attorney and say, look, we need to sit down in a conference and there's some things that we need to check out. So what happened?
Well, a source transmitted us Ashley Biden, the daughter of the President Joe Biden's diary. We got that document sent to us. We tried to corroborate it. We failed. We tried to authenticate it. We could not verify it was hers. This was in about October of 2020. A year later, federal agents showed up at my door. There were about 10 to 12 of them. They had a battering ram at 6 a.m. They came into my apartment and raided my apartment, took my 2 iPhones, and put me in handcuffs, threw me against the hallway wall in my apartment building. It was terribly shocking. It was a violation of my constitutional rights. A federal judge in New York ordered them stop going through my phones. But this was so egregious that even the ACLU and the Reporters Committee came to my defense. And this wasn't just an attack against me. It was an attack against principles so fundamental in this country, the First Amendment. And what I've written this book, which is about information they don't want you to have. We are independent journalists. We publish information, not the authorized information, because in our country, we have to have informed consent. So it was a terribly traumatizing experience, but we continue to do our work.
You have been targeted and sued on many occasions. You've never settled. That's never been your approach.
We've never lost a lawsuit. In fact, just this past year, we won a historic victory in the defamation case against the New York Times. We sued the New York Times for defamation, got past motion to dismiss, the judge in New York State arguing it was the New York Times that engaged in disinformation and deception against us.
James, what I don't understand, you did not release this diary that you could not authenticate.
Right.
So in other words, it's like no harm, no foul, because someone gave it to you, you didn't ask for it. As a journalist, it's not illegal for you to receive material, but you didn't publish it.
That's correct. It's kind of a dystopian nightmare, because what should I have done? I mean, if you stumble upon something and you look into it, your ethical responsibility is to try to corroborate it.
Yeah.
I failed to do that. At least I thought I failed to do that. I did not publish Joe Biden's daughter's diary. I did not know if the contents in the diary occurred, and I wasn't certain it was hers. So the question is, for the Department of Justice, Joe Biden's Department of Justice, is, what did you want me to do?
Yeah.
What would an ethical human being or journalist do? We did everything we could. We tried to give it back to Ashley Biden. They refused to receive it. I contacted Joe Biden for comment. Of course, they didn't want to give me a comment. So I returned it to law enforcement to make sure the diary went to its rightful owner. And then they raided my home. And it was terrifying. And I think that the Supreme Court of the United States has protected the right of a journalist in a Supreme Court case called Bartnicki v. Vopper, as you said, to receive documents. Even if the documents were stolen, we don't know if they were, we don't think they were. As long as I didn't participate in that theft, it's the right of a journalist to receive information from a source. So this is really about equality before the law. It was an attack against, again, principles. And if anything, it's emboldened us. Just last week, we released a document inside the Department of Defense showing how Anthony Fauci may have lied about gain-of-function research. So a lot of these whistleblowers I write about in this book, they've got nowhere else to go. They certainly can't go to the New York Times with their information. so they go to Project Veritas.
James, a lot of the things that you do with Project Veritas, you do with undercover journalists, and you have an ability to sit down and frankly get stuff out of people that is shocking. Whether it's a CNN producer who admits that there is a very focused and ordered bias within the network to go against conservatives. And then when you publish what is their own voices and their own video, pictures of them in person, they get mad at you rather than get mad at the people who are unethical.
That's right. That control room director we recorded inside CNN, his name was Charlie Chester, and he was on tape saying, we got Trump out. We use propaganda. In fact, Charlie Chester brags on the video, we want the deaths to be higher, more death numbers on CNN screen because that drives up ratings. And he says, fear sells. And it's all about fear.
Those are the actual words.
Those are
of
his
CNN
words, not mine.
Yeah.
Now, I was banned from Twitter for quoting the man at CNN.
Whoa. That's why you got, I knew you were banned from Twitter.
That was the proximate cause of my being banned, those videos against the CNN control room director. And there's this, and if this sounds like science fiction, well, truth is stranger than fiction. There's a relationship between media and the government, pharmaceutical companies. There's this symbiotic relationship. And you can't trust journalists anymore to expose them. Has to be us, has to be outside, independent people who are free from these sorts of conflicts of interest.
Well, thank goodness you're there. In fact, I want to tell you, Twitter may ban you. We won't ban you here. We've got a lot more to talk about with James O'Keefe. We are going to keep him after the break. I know you want to hear more of what he's up to. I do too. This is his book. We're going to be talking about that, but also why this matters to you. We'll be right back. Do not go away.
Huckabee.com and sign up for his free newsletter and follow @GovMikeHuckabee on Twitter.
And welcome back. We are with Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe. His new book, and it is sizzling. It's called American Muckraker, Rethinking Journalism for the 21st Century. You can pre-order your copy right now, or you can pick it up wherever books are sold starting Tuesday. James, thanks for sticking around. We weren't about to let you get away until we've had some more conversation. You guys got your start back in 2009. You basically single-handedly did the country a favor by getting rid of Acorn, right?
Yeah, We exposed Acorn, a colleague of mine, Hannah Giles. She was then 20, I was then 24. We went around the country wearing a hidden camera in my tie. She presented herself as a prostitute, and I was pretending to be her pimp. Went undercover and did this sort of citizen sting operation, exposing the fact that they were in these meetings with Acorn officials. And again, Acorn was from Arkansas.
Yeah, originally. They started there, believe me.
Wade Rathke. And Association of Community Organizations for Reform now, President Barack Obama was an attorney for Acorn. We went into these offices and they gave us tax advice on how to disguise the underage prostitutes on our tax forms, disguising them as dancers and performing artists. The videos were so shocking, it would evoke audible gasps from people. We did this with no money. Veritas was in its inception phase. And, it was a scary thing to do. We did it. Released the tapes one at a time in September of 2009, and within 1 week, the democratically controlled House and Senate voted to defund Acorn, President Obama signing that legislation because two kids from effectively the cast of High School Musical 3 dressed as a pimp and hooker went in there with a hidden camera.
What is the single thing you're most proud of that Project Veritas has uncovered? Because, I mean, there are dozens of things that you guys have exposed that the mainstream media didn't have the courage to touch. So there's got to be something as you look over the past 20 years and say, this is what really matters to me.
I think there was one moment in September of this past year, about 4 months ago, we exposed a teacher in Sacramento, California named Gabrielle Geip, whistleblower in the school had a picture of an Antifa flag in the classroom. So we went to a coffee shop to covertly record this teacher, and he told us, and I can't say it on television what he said, but I can paraphrase it, he wanted to screw with your kids and scare them. And he sends these children to Antifa rallies to give them school credit, and he was stamping homework assignments with Joe Stalin, an ink stamp of his face. This is a
public school.
Yes, in Sacramento.
Taxpayer-funded school.
Yes, and he had a T-shirt with a hammer and sickle on it. It was so crazy, it was almost hard to believe. We released this video on September 1st, and hundreds of outraged parents went to this school board meeting. It was live streamed. This is right before all these other school board meetings happened. And the parents were not Democrats or Republicans. They weren't left or right. They were just outraged sort of mama bears.
Yeah.
And they were just so indignant. And that moment, to me, I felt like a moment of consensus. It felt like that everyone was united, and it was all happening because of this one video of this guy. And that's our mission. Everything we try to do is forge consensus. Our country is so divided. And it's unfortunate that we are, because there's only one truth. There's only one set of facts. You're not entitled to multiple realities.
Exactly. James, you may have a political point of view, but I get the impression, and in fact, I've seen some of the work you've done, you'll go after anyone who is abusing the taxpayer or abusing the truth. Why don't other media outlets, why are we not seeing that from the Washington Post, the New York Times, from CBS, from the other networks? Why not?
That's a very in-depth conversation I have in this book about the history of journalism, but it comes down to, I think, a tension in journalism between what I call access and autonomy. I think journalists have gotten so cozy, for what little journalists are left, have gotten so cozy with their government sources, they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. They don't want to dig deep into the FBI. Within minutes of my home being raided, I was just fresh out of handcuffs, I got a text message from the New York Times, and somehow that national security reporter knew the contents of the document that I was holding in my hands. Why isn't the New York Times investigating the FBI? It seems like they're working in harmony with them. So, and then on the other hand, you get too adversarial, and that can engender its own partisan factions. Veritas goes where no one else will go, and our stories are determined by the whistleblowers, by these brave people I write about, people inside Google and Pinterest and the Department of Defense. There's a lot of good people working in education, working in the government, and they have to, I guess, follow their conscience. They have to come forward with the information about what's happening, because we can't trust the press to do that at this point.
What scares you the most? Is there something that just puts a chill down your spine about what's happening in this country?
I wouldn't say what scares me, but what I'm concerned about is people being so afraid.
Yeah.
The moment you stop, I write this in the book at the end, the moment you stop caring about what they write about you and what they think about you is the moment you're actually free to be effective as a journalist.
Let me just tell you that obviously you're not too afraid. You've done stuff that most of us would be scared to death to go. You've been where angels have feared to tread. I really think people, when they read this book, will have a better understanding. I hope that people will buy it. It'll help you. But they can also contribute to Project Veritas to keep you going, because you're not getting sponsored by any of the major woke corporations of America. So we're going to make sure our audience knows how to help you do that. James O'Keefe, I want to say thank you for joining us, and most of all, for the work that you're doing through Project Veritas. To find out more about Project Veritas and James O'Keefe's wonderful new book, American Muckraker, it goes on sale Tuesday. You can pre-order it right now. Go to Huckabee.tv. We have links to the book, to Project Veritas, and much more that James O'Keefe is doing.